They're a danger to our universe.
You're not gonna take this away from me.
Peter, you're struggling to have everything you want while the world tries to make you choose.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Burns Reviews, and today we're talking about spoilers for No Way Home, and today, good friend of the show and person, the YouTuber I talk to the most outside of YouTube. It's so nice to have him here, Patrick Burow, everybody.
How you guys doing? Thank you, John, for having me. We're actually able to talk about Spider-Man. That's actually what I liked.
Do you not like... So wait, what's your like ratio? Do you not like most of them?
I don't like the two Amazing Spider-Man movies. I don't like Homecoming or Far From Home. I think Spider-Man 3 is incredibly mediocre, but I love 1, 2, and Spider-Verse. Fair
enough. All right, so we're going to cut through all the fat. Just get straight to it. I have the 3 categories that we already talked about earlier. I'm going to bring those up. Here's your dumb spoiler warning. If you clicked on the video, you know what's up. Spoilers. So 3, 2, 1... They're in the movie.
Mephisto's in the multiverse, fucking Thanos in the
ass. Okay, so let's go straight into category 1: unanswerable questions or things that make no sense. Right? We'll just get straight to the end. For me, the biggest plot hole that I have with this movie is that it makes no sense to do like a magical spell in which social media also forgets everything that's going on in this movie. Like, I don't know how that footage of J. Jonah talking about Spider-Man no longer exists on people's phones, on webcams, what have you. I don't... What is your take on that?
I think it's really dumb because from the footage that we know, people still know that Spider-Man exists, meaning that there's probably still footage out there of Spider-Man. But if that's the case, it hasn't erased the videos of Spider-Man being Spider-Man while people knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and in those videos people will be like, it's Peter Parker, blah blah blah, like Public Enemy #1, because people know that Spider-Man's a thing, and it's not erasing the people's knowledge of Spider-Man, it's people forgetting that Peter Parker even existed.
Strange is very clear about how they're not going to do time travel and all that. He says he doesn't even have the stone anymore, and
no.
Where is the stone right now? It's all a blur because there's too much content now. But do you remember where the stone is?
In the current timeline, it was destroyed by Thanos in Endgame. Remember?
But then Cat brought it back to
a different dimension within the time travel timeline with the Pym particles and everything, because it helps them leap and jump between different timelines and interdimensional bullshit.
Okay. All right. My head hurts.
So
that's fine.
How Cap managed to return the stones to their rightful dimensions makes no sense.
Well, we could do a whole pod on how that doesn't really track. How that seems like really improbable and crazy. But what do you think was like the biggest like sticking points? I mean, you like the movie, right? I know I'm shitting on it already.
But I actually really enjoyed it. I went in very scared and cautiously optimistic. This is a movie I admittedly was not very excited for, but that's because I'm just burnt out by the MCU, and it's just the same thing over and over again with them at the moment. It's the same general formula, same motivations and everything. But I did like it. The movie did feel like a breath of fresh air. It felt like something different, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man feels like he actually kind of has responsibilities in this movie where that's sort of put on other people in Far From Home and Homecoming. I understand Far From Home, he definitely had a lot more responsibility than Homecoming, rather than having Tony Stark come and save his ass every 5 minutes. But in Far From Home, it still felt like they didn't have that balance with the character, sorry, I should say. Whereas in this, it feels like Peter Parker is actually like on his own, even though he has Strange at the beginning and he's trying to round up all the villains and everything to send them back. In the end,
does he have Strange in the beginning though? Strange is like, I'll do the spell for you, and then you're on your own. Go get your Scooby-Doo gang, and then I'm done in this movie, and then I'll come back to like be a stern parent kind of. But I don't think he deserves to almost be on the poster. Like, it's a little misleading. He's back to back with Tom Holland.
He's got like maybe 10 minutes of total screen time.
Right. He's webbed up, and I'm like, I mean, it's a nice plot device, and I get why they did. They didn't want to show Toby and Andrew, but you know what's a nitpick I have on this movie? When Tom Holland, Spider-Man, is fighting the Green Goblin in the apartment building, and he's constantly just pushing him down level to level to level to level. I'm like, no, the physics of this is bullshit. I know
Yeah.
in the Raimi movies, like they go through like that brick wall when they're fighting in the end, but I'm like,
It's a little
and
more
look,
believable than the force of them falling and their strength is enough to break through, floor after floor after floor. Like physics wise, every level would have stopping power to slow down their descent to be able to break through the floors.
yeah, you would need a running start to kind of do that kind of thing.
It would literally need to be like, you would need like a Bakugo sort of like howitzer impact sort of from My Hero Academia to be able to fucking do that. With Green Goblin and Spider-Man, though, not a fucking chance. Like, sure, Electro blasting him through would be it, but not just a simple
that made sense. When he shoots Doc Ock across the room, I'm like, okay, that tracks. But like, like you would need like a cannon. And Tom Holland is like 90 pounds soaking wet. Willem Dafoe is also like, he's only 5'9". He's 65. He's kind of frail. And I'm like, and even with the suits and the bullshit, I'm just like, all right, that pulled me out of the movie. But
it's a fun fight though. I will admit that. It's a fun fight, but it makes no fucking sense.
I've never hated Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin more.
No.
Like I fucking hated him so much.
But it's in like the right way that you hate him, and it makes you realize how smart one Norman Osborn is, but two, how smart the personality of the Green Goblin that's sort of fucking with his head is as well. And you realize that like the scene that I think I love the most, aside from many others in this movie, because there are some great scenes which we'll obviously talk about, but I think I have to immediately talk about the scene where Peter's trying to help all the villains, like trying to find, create that sort of suppressing device on Electro. And then, the new, neurocalibrator for the, the tentacle arms with Doc Ock, which work. And I'm really happy they did that. And then the same thing with the, I'm going to say the cure for Dr. Connors and everything. I just think it's such a great idea that in this, it's no longer Peter trying to stop a threat, but more or less help the threat and actually cure them of their disease that is making them the way that they are. Yeah.
Well, it's like, like no good deed goes unpunished. I had that thought when I was driving home. I'm like, you try to be a good person. A stranger comes to you. He looks like a homeless guy. You give him free donuts. When you're not looking, he takes the ones that are, in the box. And what does he do? He fucking kills you. And I'm just like, you fucking fuck.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you want to talk about Aunt May while we're kind of like on the topic?
She's dead.
What? Is that your Tom Holland?
She's dead. She's very dead. She's 6 feet down under.
Do you think they did it well though? Or do you think
it felt rushed? Like they did foreshadow it in that scene, like during the apartment building where she's like got the serums in the bag and she's sort of backing up. It was really nice to see Feast in this, by the way, the shelter she works at.
That felt rushed. All my info of Feast came from the comics and the video game. And then it just felt like, because of that, but it never in this franchise. Never felt like
it really had its welcome in this franchise. You are correct.
No, it's like she's flirting with Tony. She's kind of dating Happy. Oh yeah, and by the way, she's also running Feast. Didn't you know?
And that thing with her and Happy was just a one-time fucking dump.
Well, she says like, well, that's why it's a fling, and he's like, he's just crying, man. Like Vince Vaughn would be so let down if he saw him crying right now.
Yeah. But like, I think this was just their way in regards to the whole Aunt May thing. Was just their way to sort of change up the whole thing of like, oh, Uncle Ben died. This is the origin story. But now it like needs that moment for Peter to lose his shit to do what needs to be done, but possibly almost losing himself in the process. Like, obviously spoiler alert, but when Toby and Andrew turn up in this movie, because they do, there's an entire conversation about how Peter lost Uncle Ben, and then, well, Peter lost Uncle Ben too. Sorry, that is something that's in the movie as well, like the Peter. Peter
1, Peter 2, Peter 3.
Peter 3. That's how they do it, and Andrew's sort of butthurt the entire time that he's Peter 3 because he's
Peter
not
3.
as cool as... Oh, I guess. But No, they talk about like when Andrew and Toby lost their Uncle Ben's,
Right.
their rage on how they almost lost themselves. What is it? Andrew hunted down the man that killed Uncle Ben, and that subplot was just dropped. Which is why I think they never tied that up in the No Way Home, because I think they were taking a jab at the whole thing of him never finishing that arc, which I thought was funny. But like with Toby, how he hunted down the man that he thought killed his uncle and
Right.
killed him. Like they didn't want Tom to become that way, and I think that's why they did it. They needed Tom's Peter to have his Uncle Ben to sort
Right.
of have that moment, especially during the final fist fight with Goblin and him in the climax.
Right. No, yeah, it all tracks pretty nicely.
It's just the setup and the execution.
Right. We might as well just go straight into the whole Toby, Andrew, Tom Holland, right? I mean, that's the big centerpiece of all this, right?
Yeah, aside from people thinking that Matt Murdock was going to be in it as well, which he's in it for like fucking 2 minutes during a table sit down.
You know what? I will take it, because that tells me that he's now in the MCU and we're going to get more later. And that's all I want, really. I don't want a sideshow of I don't want 8 minutes of a courtroom scene. I know it exists.
No.
I know they cut it out, but like, I don't want it. It would be like the longest movie ever. I know everybody loves Endgame, but Endgame can be a chore to watch. Like in rewatch, it's like it's 3 little movies. Okay, so like it's like 3 movies in one, and it's kind of a long chore to watch if you're not in the mood when you're watching it. This movie, I think, has more rewatch value because it doesn't do the whole courtroom thing.
Exactly,
that'd be too much.
Yeah, and the thought I had as well is like knowing that there was going to be a courtroom scene. Thank God it was cut out. But it just reminded me of like another movie that came out earlier this year that had courtroom demeanor bog it down, and that was the third Conjuring movie. Like sometimes you just want to get to the nitty gritty of things, but courtroom demeanor just bogs it down. Like in a show like say,
we talked about that one, and that movie has not aged well in my brain. Like I liked it when I thought it was okay. I think it's much less than okay now.
Yeah, I gave it a D+ and I stand by it.
That's fair.
But no, like courtroom demeanor can work depending on what it is. Like if it's a Daredevil show, cool, because Matt Murdock is a lawyer.
Right.
When it comes to shows like How to Get Away with Murder, the entire thing is like the really hyper-fixated and very fast-paced courtroom conversations and sort of shit that's going on. But if it's like The Conjuring or Spider-Man No Way Home, you don't want to deal with that stuff. You kind of want to get to the nitty-gritty of the main plot. And thankfully, they cut that out because there was a court scene, apparently.
Special shout out to John Campia for letting us all know that Matt Murdock was going to come back.
Then Toby and Andrew with the official photos, and when I saw that very shot in the movie as well of them all standing on the that sort of structure around the Statue of Liberty, I'm like, hey, John Campia, you know that shot, don't you? No shade to John Campia, by the way. No shade.
Quick last thing on Matt Murdock. There's that scene in the trailer where we see like hairy arms like drop down a stack of papers. Is that a cut scene from Matt Murdock, or is that just something else altogether?
That was in the movie.
Okay, so that wasn't Matt Murdock, right?
No.
Okay.
People confirm that.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Came out. Yeah, I know what you're talking about when he slams the stuff on the table, and like that's in the movie where like it's revealing that they have all this fucking evidence on him and everything. It was revealed in the IMAX trailer of the teaser trailer as well months ago that it wasn't Matt Murdock.
They showed more of it. I think you're right. I think I did see that. Okay. Yeah. All right, so let's move past Matt Murdock because there's really not much to go into with that. It's
except for him catching a brick.
That was legit.
And then he's
that's what I'm saying. That's all we need.
Tom's like, "How did you do that?" I'm a really good lawyer.
I'm a really good lawyer. He needs to grow the hair back though. I'm not loving how everyone's like, "Hey, we're getting old and balding, so we got to kind of keep it tight and short." They need to get Keeps, new sponsor for the show. Keep that hair flowing.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I honestly don't even know.
Have you watched Daredevil or no?
No, I watched Daredevil. I love Daredevil. And are we allowed to talk about Hawkeye spoilers here?
I haven't seen minute 1 of Hawkeye.
Okay, but do you know about the big thing in the recent episode?
I know that a very specific villain is back because of social media, if that's what you
Did
mean.
we want to talk about it because it's so coincidental?
I do
Not
not
really.
because I haven't seen it, and I don't know if anybody watching right now has seen it.
Okay, fine. I won't talk about it then.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your favorite scene in this movie? Do you have one or no? I mean, I know. Well, I mean, there's kind of some obvious ones, but what for you really stands out?
You see, it's probably two scenes. One of them would have to be the one inside the Happy's apartment when he's trying to create all that stuff to help the villains. Like that's a very personal moment. It's very Spidey. He's a kid and everything, but he also wants to help people more than he wants to like kill them or beat them or whatever. He wants to help people, which is a really nice moment in the film. That was a really good scene. It was the perfect length and how he helped Doc Ock, and then all of a sudden Otto Octavius is like, Norman, it's me. I'm like, that's really cool. I really, really fucking like that.
And and before you go to the next one, that scene is kind of great because to me, this movie kind of feels like a wet dream of like the world's greatest Comic-Con, like where you get all the actors from like the previous Spider-Man, and you kind of have like the actors on stage just like reminiscing and talking about, oh, well, when I was doing this, I did that. Oh, really? Like, I love that, like Jamie Foxx and Sandman just like shooting the shit. Or Otto Octavius and the Goblin just shooting the shit, kind of calling each other out on bullshit. That it really did feel like a Comic-Con, and we're all here to kind of see it. What's your second scene?
Pretty much anything with Toby and Andrew, but that's because like I was born in 2001. I'm only 20 years old, but I grew up with three generations. Like I grew up with the three generations of Spider-Man we have on the big screen. And seeing all three generations on the big screen together was just phenomenal. And when they eventually team up and everything to take down the villains, they've got a plan. Them all swinging together simultaneously in sync was just a Spider-Man fan's wet dream.
And landed on the Statue of Liberty head, right?
Yeah, that was, and like although some of the CG at times in the movie isn't admittedly great, like when Toby and Andrew walk through their portals, I'm like, ooh, that green screen, that chroma key could be a little bit better, but I think that still every moment with them was written perfectly. It takes jabs at the older movies while also referencing certain things. I love the addressing of how Andrew and Tom use their web slingers and everything, but with web fluid, but Toby has the organic web shooters. And like that conversation, and Tom's even like, does it shoot out of anywhere else? And I'm like,
the question we've always had.
That's the question we've always fucking had. That is amazing. And I really did love those moments.
That's what I mean by like Comic-Con. That just feels like we're all at Comic-Con together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of great.
It just works so well because I think that those scenes, I think the Toby, Andrew, and Tom scenes together could have easily been done for just pure fan service.
Oh, and
they were to a certain degree, but this is what I mean by sometimes fan service isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like in Ghostbusters, fan service can be, in Ghostbusters Afterlife, fan service can be used, but it can also be used in two different ways. One for blind reactions just to satisfy fans, or to have a greater purpose. And I felt like every scene written with Tom, Andrew, and Toby together as the three Spider-Men were handled really, really well and was some of the best written scenes in the entire movie, in my opinion.
I really appreciate that they actually gave Andrew Garfield like a nice 2-minute bit before they brought Toby in, because I had never seen the Amazing Spider-Man movies until within the last 2 days. Because I remember I was like, it was back when I was in college, it came out. I kind of felt like the corpse of like Spider-Man 3 wasn't even cold yet. And they were already like rebooting it. And it was going to be an origin story. And I'm like, I'm out. And then I saw pieces of it on HBO, like from the middle to like, I guess the end. People
and like
were kind
cable
of
and everything.
it. Yeah. And like, definitely not the way to watch a movie. Because if you don't see like that first like third of it, you're kind of like not really immersed in the characters very much.
Exactly.
But I watched them back to back just like 2 days ago, and the second one, there's no sidestepping it. It's bad. Paul Giamatti yelling like a crazy person.
Spider!
Yeah, there's a lot that's hard to swallow with that second movie. And the first one, it's not great either, but I love Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. Like he just works for me. Like I did not. I feel like I just discovered something that like a hidden treasure, you know.
Yeah.
And it really does shine in like those like few minutes before we finally get Toby coming in, and
Yeah,
now
and I love
now it's a whole different thing.
how Andrew as well, like you're showing that he's like full-time Spider-Man after the death of Gwen, and how he got over that 6-month thing of not being Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2 at the very end, and how he doesn't have time for life, as he said, to do non-Spider-Man things, which is why he turned up in the Spider-Man suit with the mask on and everything. And I love how he's like hanging from the ceiling to prove that he's Spider-Man. And then Gwen's like,
I'm not gonna crawl. I'm not gonna crawl.
He's like, I'm not gonna crawl. My grandmother.
This is enough.
This is enough. My grandmother asked you if you could grab that spider web over there, and then he does it. And I'm just like, that's really clever. I like that. And it just shows the differences of where the two different Peter Parkers are, like Toby and Andrew, because Toby is clearly a much older, much wiser Spider-Man at this point. And when he turns up, he's not even wearing the suit, but he is underneath. It's like he's always ready, just in case. Unlike Toby and Andrew.
He's like in full swing of like Clark Kent mode. He's like, look, I'm a
exactly.
dude, but I'm ready. Yeah.
But he's not like Tom or Andrew, who have to put the suit on separately. He's always got it on underneath, like he did in the Raimi trilogy, which I think is really cool. And seeing that iconic suit, man, from the Raimi trilogy was just so nice.
Yeah,
it was so good.
It's a nice suit.
It is, and all the suits actually now have wrinkles on them too, making them feel like they're real suits. I noticed that when they were embracing each other, hugging each other, like on Toby's suit. I'm like,
I love you guys.
I love you guys.
I felt so bad for him. Like, dude, I'll hug you.
Yeah. And I love how before the battle even takes place, how Andrew was like, I love you guys, but no one says it back to him. I'm like, oh no.
Shut up, number 3.
Shut up, Spider-Man 3. Oh, wait, you're Spider-Man number 3 because you never got that movie.
But yeah, the portal scene initially is pretty great, even if it's a little like haphazard with Ned just kind of fucking around. And I was also a little bit kind of like, they said something. It's very quick, but they said something to the effect of like, "Oh, we've been looking for you," or maybe they were looking for the villains. It's a little like it's a blink and you miss it kind of moment, but maybe it's Toby who says it. He's like, "Oh yeah, we were looking for you." Did you catch that?
Oh, they were looking for Tom ever since they arrived because of the Public Enemy thing and the identity of Spider-Man being out there, and they knew the threat that was going on because of the Daily Bugle broadcasts. I believe, and they were looking because he needed their help, and they said that.
So when so that makes more sense. So when Ned opened the portal, he wasn't opening a portal to like their dimension. They were already here in the MCU, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
No. Yeah, no, they were already in the MCU when the spell sort of got botched and everything.
That makes so much more sense in my head now. Okay. You're right. The movie kind of throws a line at you quickly.
It does. Yeah. It is a very rushed movie at times. Like, it goes by way too fast and doesn't have a balance of pacing and everything. It does at times jump from location to location. And that's my biggest problem with the first half of the movie. It is very jumpy, very unfocused. And although it does similar shit throughout the second half, it is definitely a more focused movie in the second half in comparison. But I do love the line from Jamie Foxx when Andrew's Spider-Man reveals himself. And he's like, hey, man, you're just a kid. You got a nice face. I just thought you would have been black. And I'm just like, nice. And I'm like,
and then it's just like, maybe someday, wink.
And I'm like, Miles, that's your foreshadow to fucking Miles right there. Definitely.
That's one of those like unanswerable questions that like you just have to let go of like, why is Jamie Foxx now? He's got like a fresh cut. He's not blue. And I'm like, how did that happen? But you just have to.
Well, he did kind of start off blue because of the amount of energy he was able to hold.
No, yeah. But I mean, all of them kind of like have like a new variation to him a little bit. Willem Dafoe's character, it just becomes kind of homeless, and that way he's more comic book accurate. And you're like, all right, with the
like
fine.
Purple hood and everything, and
right,
all that sort of shit, because he didn't have that in the originals, which I think was kind of cool. I did want more of the Green Goblin mask though, because that was gone after like his brief appearance on the bridge.
I feel like it's more in the trailer than it is in the actual movie. the Green Goblin in the suit and the mask, right? I don't know if they slow down that clip of him coming through the smoke, but I'm like, we really don't get any like OG 2002 Green Goblin. But you know what? I think that was one of the biggest gripes that fans had. It's like, this is not, if you have someone like Willem Dafoe with that face, which is kind of like Jim Carrey, where it's so
where he's like
yeah, like why would you not just like, you don't even need makeup, and I think it works really well.
No,
I did notice one quick thing about Willem Dafoe, or the Green Goblin, is that
Willem
both
friend.
in both Amazing Spider-Man 2 and in this one, Green Goblin is a bit of a coward, because in each versions, whether it's Dane DeHaan's character or Willem Dafoe in this one, he totally sits back, lets the other bad guys fight Spider-Man, and when they fail, he swoops in and goes, all right, I guess I'll fucking do this. Right?
And then he's like, Spider-Man!
Like, what a bitch. Like, dude, come on. Like, you could have won if maybe you helped them out a little bit. I don't know. That's just my little, like, thing that I noticed. Speaking of favorite scenes, my favorite scene in this movie, kind of going what you were saying about, like, them together, the three of them, is definitely when they go and they find Peter initially. And they go to, like, the rooftop. They kind of finally hit that drum of, like, the responsibility. They talk about, like, Uncle Ben. Like you said, they're talking about whatever. I think Andrew Garfield also brings the most to the table as far as, like, baggage, because he's got, like, the Gwen Stacy thing. And like you said, he's talking about how he's Spider-Man, that he's not. Tobey Maguire, he's like, yeah, me and MJ, we're still married. And, you know,
we're still together. We made it work.
Yeah, you know, I was the whole movie, I'm like, kind of like zooming.
Kids?
I'm zooming in. And is that a question you're asking me if they had kids? Or?
I want to know if they had kids. Do they have spider babies?
I mean, I don't know. I know Kirsten Dunst recently was like, yeah, I want to do another one because I want money. So why not?
Except she got paid like less than like a fifth of what Toby did in their movies.
Is there any unseen previous incarnation characters from this franchise that you wish, or in the future, should come? Like, do you want Dane DeHaan, James Franco?
No.
Who am I missing here?
Well, James Franco, I don't want because of.
Yeah.
But you know what? There was a certain part of me that kind of wanted to see Topher Grace back as fucking.
Topher Grace.
Hi, Peter. My spider senses are tingling.
You know where you put him?
You know what I mean.
You put him in the next Venom movie. That's where you put him.
Oh, please. Oh, please.
Like in a
cameo. It's a multiverse of Venoms and everything. And it's like the Pee Wee Herman fucking Spider-Man 3 Venom versus Eddie, Tom Hardy's. And I'm like, you're getting your neck snapped.
He just eats them. I'd be down for that. Tom Hardy just eats him and we're done. Really quick.
I wish there was a conversation though between Toby and Willem Dafoe, Willem the friend.
Yeah, that seems kind of like, why wouldn't
James?
You?
Exactly, and I wanted them to talk about how Harry Osborn died, and if he keeps going down this path, his son is going to follow in his footsteps if he dies, and dies in pretty much the same way. I wanted that conversation.
I think the issue was like much like Endgame or Infinity War, like. There's definitely got to be some things going on where these characters were definitely not on screen together, and they kind of put them in together. My other gripe was kind of like that scene where Tom Holland is fighting the Goblin, and Toby he gets in there pretty quick. Andrew does not jump in there for a bit, and the two of them could have easily jumped in, and Toby doesn't get stabbed. It's like, I don't know what the hell Andrew was doing. Maybe he was just like celebrating the win of catching somebody. But
I do love though that it was Toby's Spider-Man that stopped Tom's from impaling Goblin with the glider. It's just I've seen this before. I've done this. Don't let it happen again. But I'm like, that is. I would have loved that. I would have loved it as he's doing this. Like if it just did that little zoom in sort of quick cut thing, and then Willem Dafoe's like, oh, and then all of a sudden Toby comes in and stops it.
Or this time it's just Toby doing it. Oh.
One of the weirdest lines in the entire movie, though, we discussed this before we started recording, was the reference when they meet Willem Dafoe's Norman Osborn again, and he's like, I can help because, I'm something of a scientist myself. And I'm just like, oh, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, I mean, I had that thought too, because like he's like, I want to cure you all, but I feel like you don't need to be that bright to be like, all right, so listen, you guys, I'm gonna take you guys one at a time. You don't bring all 5 of them back to your apartment and assume that all 5 of them are gonna be chill. I know Doctor Strange was like, right? It's like, I mean, at least Goblin. Well, I guess at that point they thought Goblin was like the nicest of them all, but I don't know. I come on, right?
Goblin gotta be Goblin.
Yeah. All right, so we can't sidestep this anymore. We gotta talk about May a little bit. Do you what was your take of that? She did.
She
do
did.
you like that they gave her the responsibility line? Because I feel like they kind of gave it to her, right? No, you don't.
I would have
what, Toby?
I know that they sort of did it in what is it, the movie anyway with Toby, but I would have much rathered like when Toby meets Tom and they had that conversation for him to be like, just remember, kid, with this power you have, with great power comes great responsibility, rather than May doing it, because it just felt unearned, especially with how they handled and how rushed her death was.
I don't feel like Toby was a strong enough mentor in some ways. Like, he was great in like comparing notes and being like, oh, you do this, I do that. That was all great. But you're right. There weren't a lot of conversations with like him and Doc Ock or him and Goblin or him and...
Although there was a combo with him and Doc Ock that was really, really fucking nice to see.
Which one?
After the battle and everything, they're up on the top of the Liberty before it collapses and everything, before Goblin comes in. And then Doc Ock looks at Peter and he's like, Peter. And he's like, Mr. Octavius, you're all grown up, boy. And I'm like, nice. That's really cool to see.
That was pretty legit. You know what I kind of like that I didn't expect that they were going to do with like Doc Ock and Green Goblin, like they're aware of each other, and we've never really seen that ever. And like, I love watching them just kind of like trash talk each other when they're not in the same room together, and then they're kind of trashing each other because you've never really kind of beat that drum within the Raimi verse. Yeah,
because they would have known each other,
right? But we've never hit that, so that was pretty legit.
Although, how the fuck did Quentin Beck survive after he was cured as Sandman? Like, he's in the fucking, the hat of the Statue of Liberty, and then Electro just goes boom, and he's inside the top as it gets blasted. I'm like, how are you not dead?
Because movies got a movie, that's why.
I know, but it was nice to see Quentin Beck initially on Spider-Man's side.
I also thought it would have been great, like, if, like, 20 years later, Toby kind of changed his mind about how he felt about Sandman, and now he does want to kill him a little bit. He's like, you know what? I've had 20 years to think about it. You did kill my Uncle Ben, you fuck. You know, I let you off because like I knew I was going to see you again, but now you're back. And I guess another unanswerable kind of question is, they're not very clear when they get grabbed. It seems like obviously before they get killed off with the villains.
Doc Ock was meant to be just before the machine sort of had him drown. That's how it was meant to be.
Right.
Green Goblin.
Electro, they kind of mentioned that he was about to fry him.
Yeah, and then he was gone. Sandman, it seems as though after him and Peter make amends at the end of Spider-Man 3, because he tries to help Peter at the beginning when they first encounter each other with Electro. Right. And then Lizard, I think it was the sewer.
That
it wouldn't be, because
Lizard was given them yet. Lizard was given them least to do in this movie. I mean, they leave him in the fucking van.
Good, because of his fucked up face.
Because it'd be like a CGI nightmare trying to have him like comfortably walk around in that tiny apartment with 5 other CGI characters. You already got the Doc Ock arms going around.
Yeah, and seeing all 3 of them though swinging and like clobber the fuck out of like what is his name, Electro, Sandman, and Lizard in that shot that we saw in the trailer was really nice to see, because we knew that shit was CG'd out. You mean
you didn't think Tom Holland was gonna go up against 5 Spider-Men by himself?
5 Spider-Men? Oh my god!
I'm sorry, Spider-Man villains. Villains.
No, there was no fucking way.
So
Because
would you quantify this as like a Sinister Six?
No.
Like, is this it? Is this the most we're gonna get?
it's the Sinister Five.
Well, yeah, I know that, but
I think this will be the most we will get for a while.
because I mean they did the mind sweep, which was like, all right, I guess we're doing that.
My mate actually mentioned a theory that actually kind of makes sense. They've erased the memories of so many people, and they had the conversation about the friends of Peter Parker always turning into villains. So we could very well get Ned, now that his memory has been erased, as Hobgoblin.
No, nobody wants that, Patrick. Nobody wants Ned as a bad guy. It's just a terrible idea.
I do.
No, you don't. I'd watch
I want
Flash
it.
as a bad. Flash has all the reasoning to be the bad guy.
I mean, we could always give him the symbiote and have like the Flash Thompson. What is it?
Yeah, he's
Venom
already a
storyline.
douche. I mean, he'd be like the Topher Grace version of Venom, but like,
He'd be
Sure.
like, "Woo! I'm Spider-Man's best friend.
read my book.
Read my book about our life together as best friends and all the journeys we've been on."
I'll be honest. The movie does get better once we're done with the first half and Flash is not in the movie anymore. Like that kind of bullshit. I'm so glad we're done and just on
In
to
the
the next thing.
The lady in the car, I initially thought was actually the mother of the girl Liz that he fell in love with in Homecoming. I actually thought that was her mother in the car
Okay,
that
fair
he was
enough.
talking to.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, and I like how it wasn't because there's just no need to bring back those characters.
Can we just talk about for a moment how talk about payoffs that never come into fruition, like the post-credit scene of Michael Keaton talking to Shocker, where the audience is meant to be led on going, maybe there's gonna be a Sinister Six, and these guys are gonna be like the middle of it. Never paid off. I mean, he's hanging out with Morbius now, I guess. With
He
Sony?
got snapped through in the multiverse, apparently. I don't
The
fucking know.
Sonyverse.
The Sonyverse. Oh my god. Also, it's almost been 40 minutes.
I know, that's cool. We're gonna be wrapping it up soon. I guess the next thing, third topic I want to go into is like what comes next. What do you want next out of this Spider franchise?
Well, it looks like we're getting the college thing from recent announcements and everything. Him at the end getting his own apartment. I really wanted to see Mr. Dickovich going, "Give me rent," but we didn't. But
No time,
I think
Patrick,
it's
no time.
no time. But I think we're getting the college sort of thing of him balancing his life with a job, with him living on his own, with like trying to have people remember who he is, but also his responsibilities at college and being Spider-Man. But him going to college is kind of going to be a bit hard when no one remembers who the fuck Peter Parker even is, which is a bit of a issue there. But
Yeah.
I think we're getting.
Let's talk about the. Go ahead.
I was going to say, let's talk about the mid-credit scene because it looks like we're getting the Venom symbiote.
Well, I just want to talk about the ending really quick because clearly nobody remembers who he is. He's on his own. Happy doesn't remember him, and we were talking about that earlier. Giant plot hole. It's kind of like, well, does that mean Tony never met him and he never fought with the Avengers? And then how does that kind of come into play?
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of retconning. It's like, how does that? Oh, one quick note I did have. When Sandman does get back to see his daughter, because he's still on that bandwagon, is he gonna have one of those like Ant-Man moments where his daughter is now like 25 years old, and he's like, "Oh shit, this is
That would be funny."
right?" I mean,
But in the end, she's 25 years old, and because of her sickness, it's just a gravestone.
oh, that's rough. Sandman and Lizard were basically just there to put on the poster, if we're being honest.
They were on a poster.
Well, you know what I mean. They're to be kind of like sell the movie a little bit.
I mean, Lizard wasn't on the poster. In the other posters, we kind of just got sand.
I meant metaphorically, Patrick. I don't
No,
to
I
sell
know.
the movie.
Because I don't think they got separate character posters.
No, and all the press was like the main three guys, the Sinister Five guys. And I kind of question of whether or not those two actors were even ever in front of a camera, because you don't need them. All you need is their voice, really.
No.
Thomas Hayden Church
And some
guy.
other rando to do some mocap work.
There's like a scene like when they get reverted back to being human, when they get cured,
Yeah.
which is fine,
Yeah.
I guess. You don't
There's
want to
no
get too
character
bloated
poster.
with it.
There's no
Well,
character posters with Quentin Beck or Kurt Connors.
Well, let's face it, they're not selling that movie, you know. But do you want any of these characters back from the Raimi verse or the Amazing verse or stuff like that, or do you just think we should just stop here? We've peaked.
We've peaked because they've been cured and everything. It would take away the victory of this film with those villains if they brought them back again.
Okay, fair enough. Next question: do you want Andrew or Toby back either in the MCU or to have their own individual sequels?
I think they should all get their own individual sequel, at least one more, because
Spider-Man Andrew 4, especially, right?
Andrew especially, because his was open-ended, incomplete. So I think it would be nice to get an Amazing Spider-Man 3 to just sort of cap that off. And then, because we were going to get a Spider-Man 4, give Toby that. Cap it off, him as an older, wiser, and maybe he meets Miles, because he's now an older and much wiser Spider-Man, and he can be that mentor then. I think that would be pretty good.
Yeah. I don't want them being like add-ons to other people's movies. I just kind of want them to have their own movie again. Just give them one each, and then just be done, and that'd be
all I'm asking.
All right. Yeah,
all I'm asking. End of Spider-Man 4 with Toby being the older, wiser sort of Spider-Man mentor. All of a sudden, the multiverse opens up again, and Miles gets sucked through into the MCU.
Right. All right. So we're crunched for time. I'm going to keep this train moving. Let's talk about post-credit scenes. We'll quickly talk about Tom Hardy because that happened. Kind of a lazy mid-credit scene, really, right? He's at the bar.
Underwhelming.
They're explaining the MCU to him a little bit,
and he's doing like his Tom Hardy isn't like, I was there, I was just here, like
he's talking about going to New York.
Yeah,
and you know what's funny about that is that they kind of like, I guess I should go to New York and talk to this Peter Parker guy. Yeah, and then like he gets zapped back, and I'm like, well, I guess he can't do that now, or I guess I'll do it wherever he gets zapped back to, but not here where our story is taking place. Wherever Sony decides they want to take the story next, which I'm like,
maybe the Sony verse where Venom comes from, like Tom Hardy's, is the universe that Andrew takes place.
That's a big maybe, but I mean, yeah, I'd watch that.
I would too. I think it'd be a lot better than the other Venom movies we've been getting, but you know.
All right. So going to post-credit scene, which I don't think they've ever done this before. It's actually a trailer.
It's a trailer for Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness.
It gives more than just like a bit, which always feels kind of like, yeah, it's cool, but we've done
like
it 23 times
drumming
now.
In Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Which was in the trailer, by the way.
So the biggest takeaway for me is like we're getting evil Doctor Strange, the evil Sorcerer Supreme, which to me, like I told you earlier, anything with evil Benedict Cumberbatch. Like,
well, not Sorcerer Supreme. That's Wong because he got it by default because Strange got snapped away.
Yeah, whatever. What a lazy way to explain the snow scene too. You're like, oh, it's a portal to the blizzard with the Antarctica. And like, okay, whatever.
And it just sort of blew through. And I'm like, so you're not just here
cool.
being exactly. And it's just like, oh, so you're not here just being a fucking pimp with a backwards cap and like a big snow jacket, like you live in the Bronx.
Shit, look at my baggy sweatpants.
Exactly. I want a hot toy of that. So
I'm not like the giant comic book nerd like new Rockstar, but like, what do you make of that post-credit scene with Doctor Strange?
I think with the evil Doctor Strange and everything, it's the Multiverse of Madness and everything.
We're getting Wanda.
We're getting Wanda in it, and there's going to be a lot of fucking shit there. But I think the main villain is obviously going to be the evil Doctor Strange, who might very well be Nightmare, which could be very, very cool. And I don't know. This definitely feels like a horror movie, though. Like when that trailer opened up and I saw like the visuals of like the decayed city and like the sort of candlelit shit around Wanda as she's like levitating, and I'm like, this looks like the horror movie comic book film that Sam Raimi was actually teasing. Like he is making a horror film.
I thought you were gonna bring up New Mutants. I'm like, uh-oh.
No.
Remember when they were trying to pitch that idea of like, this is going to be a horror movie, and then it was just schlock.
Yeah, but No, this looks. I'm excited actually. I think it might be my most anticipated Marvel project of next year, aside from She-Hulk. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I'm really fucking excited for Multiverse of Madness, mainly because one, I'm a massive fucking horror buff, but two, like Doctor Strange, Wanda, Wong, multiverse, and horror all at once.
All
Like,
done by
come on.
Raimi.
All done by Raimi, who is, you know, a legend in horror when it comes to, like, what is it, the Evil Dead movies, Drag Me to Hell, and all that sort of stuff. It's just like, he is so good at horror. It's even Drag Me to Hell, while it's a goofy ass fucking film, it has some haunting imagery in that film that is really, really effective. And I can't wait to see what he does with a horror comic book film.
Yeah.
And I'm
You know,
the trailer.
it's funny.
Me.
I've been so like hyped up for this movie, the Spider-Man movie, that I haven't even thought about like, oh, I'm hyped up for the next one yet. I'm kind of decompressing. I want to go watch this again. I know you saw it twice, right?
I've seen it twice now. Yeah, I saw it at an early screening, and then I saw it at the midnight release last night.
Yeah, I need to see this again because it's like it does really bum rush a lot, considering it's 2.5 hours.
Well, I'm seeing it again tonight as well. So
nice.
I'm gonna get some videos. What are you seeing?
I'm seeing The Matrix 4 Resurrections, your favorite franchise of all the sci-fi action franchise.
I couldn't give two fucks about The Matrix, but I'm seeing that Monday. I've got my press screening on Monday, and I literally received my email reminder for my RSVP. Like, I literally received my email reminder earlier today, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. I don't care.
All right, Patrick, we gotta wrap this up. Where can the good people find you?
You can find me over on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at Patrick Burow. I'm here on the platform. I do movie reviews, trailer reactions every now and then. I do a lot of horror content, and I'm trying to branch out and do a little bit more stuff in regards to I'm bringing back an old series of videos for the How to Beat Saw series that I never completed, as well as doing more movie reviews because I kind of slacked on that the last couple of months. But yeah, movie reviews, movie reactions, you name it. I pump out videos every single week on Twitter and everything. I'm sort of active, but Instagram, you can always catch up with everything that I am getting up to in regards to content on a weekly basis.
And you can actually catch both of us. We're going to be on Ryan O'Toole's channel on January 9th.
Yes.
Around that time, we're going to be breaking down the top 100 movies from the 90s. I think we're doing like an NBA bracket type of format.
An NBA bracket.
That's how my brain sees it. And we can heavily debate The Matrix. I can't wait.
Oh, I can't wait to have everyone yell at me. January 9th.
Yes.
As you said. Yep. So everyone's going to yell at me because I am that guy who finds The Matrix pandering and pretentious.
You know what? I'm not even championing that. You know what I'm championing? I want Speed to like make it like high up in the bracket. It doesn't have to win.
Wait,
I don't expect it to win.
The movie or the drug?
I mean, the drug was playing. No, the movie, obviously.
Yeah, no, Speed's a lot of fucking fun.
Is there any movie that you want to not necessarily win, but like you kind of want to like see make past a couple levels?
The Last of the Mohicans. Actually,
I've never seen that one. It's on my list of like HBO Max movies.
I love them. I remember watching it so young that I ended up like, because I played violin, I loved it so much that I actually grabbed out my violin after watching it for the first time, and I literally taught myself how to play the theme from that movie.
That's awesome. I love when movies inspire you to play instruments.
Yeah, no, I was that guy who'd always play like, you know, rock music on my violin because I had an electric violin, or I would play like movie music, like Star Wars music. What is it? Jurassic Park, Jaws, you name it. Like one of my favorite themes that I ever was the arena theme from Attack of the Clones.
That's awesome. I used to do the same thing with like guitar and a little bit like piano. It's just like it's part of like the movie. You love it. It's like you almost feel the movie more. It's just, I don't know.
Exactly.
It's hard to describe if you don't do it. But anyway, you can check us out at Ryan O'Toole's channel. It's going to be on January 9th. He'll have more of the details. And Patrick, thank you so much for being on the channel. Obviously, you can find all of my social medias down here. I'll also have down in the description, both mine and Patrick's. And thank you so much for watching. I have been John. You just got burned. New videos every single week. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time.